I apologize. It is a little past 6:30, but I'd like everybody to go ahead and stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we will go 1.3. We do have an agenda adjustment. So I would like a motion to move 7.6 and 7.7 and 7.8 to be number 2 on our agenda. If I could get that motion.
So moved. Second.
All right. All those in favor?
We'll let you go on this one.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? Did you vote?
Yep.
No. Scott?
Oh, no, I did not. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have to put the vote on it. Yes, he is.
Yes, he was a yes.
Time change, Scott?
I was busy reading, sorry.
All right, so we'll start with 7.6, special recognition of Oak Hill High School's future business leaders of America in winning the state championship for the 25th year in a row.
I think we should stand. Yes,
All right, I'd like Angela and Erica, if you could come up.
Hi. We're actually going to have Faith come up. Faith is our chapter president and
All
tell you a
right.
little bit about our conference. With all her medals
Yes, I was
and
gonna
big trophy. She's really heavy right now.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my neck a little bit. So as you guys know, this is our 25th year in a row winning our states. We had 25 first place medals, 23 second place medals, and 12 third place medals. We also had a keynote speaker, Sean Gorman, who's the chairman of the board of LL Bean. He talked with us about important characteristics for business leaders to have. The highlight of the keynote was the question and answer session with Mr. Gorman. He answered student questions for over 45 minutes. And he later commented that Maine FBLA students ask better questions than most business executives that he works with. Every year we also participate in a state service project. This year's state service project was Maine Needs. Most of you probably haven't heard of them. But they're a local organization based in Portland aimed at providing material goods for those in need. The items range from basic hygiene products to back-to-school supplies. And during our first week of March Makes a Difference, we filled 2 tables full of gently worn clothing donations for Maine Needs. Thank you for having us today. We appreciate the opportunity to present our accomplishments to the school board.
So just one more thing that Faith forgot to mention. We had 35 students with us, and we got snowed into the hotel, so that was an adventure. But we had a lot of fun after all the stress was over, just hanging out with the kids, and it was a great time. And we definitely thank you for your support.
Thank you. Could I ask that all the members of the FBLA that are students that are here stand up for me, please, so you can be recognized? Thank you. Congratulations. So we'll move down to 7.7, special recognition to Oak Hill High School academic decathlon for winning the state championship. Second year in a row?
Want to add second year in a row? Is that? Well, you're starting a streak.
That's the idea.
No pressure.
No
So if I
pressure's
could
on.
have Should I continue?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So I'm Derek Anderson. I'm the advisor and coach for Academic Decathlon. Could I have the members come on up, please, with our big trophy?
Yeah.
A couple trophies. And this is kind of a two-part tonight. I don't know if I'm jumping the line and talking about the continuation for Academic Decathlon. What's nice is many of these students are here for both clubs. And usually they don't compete in the exact same week, but really kind of challenging for them, but pretty amazing performance on their part this Saturday. So I'm really proud of them. Great group of kids. For our, really why we're here, the second part is we've qualified for the national championship in Frisco, Texas. We went last year as well. That was online due to COVID last year. So there's sort of a proposal that we put together as far as that trip upcoming. Should I continue into that?
So
Sure.
we'll move to 7.8. It's to approve a trip to Texas scheduled for April 26th through the 30th for the academic decathlon team to attend the national championship.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Can we hold discussion until we?
They'll provide no discussion.
Come on. Okay, so I'll wait for our slideshow to load. Josh Bonner, one of our high-ranking members, is passing out a budget that I've put together as well as an itinerary. Basically what we're asking, what the proposal is, and there's sort of a summary of that as well on the slideshow in front of you. Yeah, let's go next slide.
Yeah.
And I have to say, one of my students, Nee, standing to my left, put together a brilliant Canva presentation that we were unable to load, unfortunately. So we're stuck with my slideshow. So basically, students compete in Academic Decathlon in 10 different events, and the theme changes every year. So last year it was water. This year it was the American Revolution. They take 7 tests at the state competition, probably the most difficult test you can imagine. There's 1 essay, planned and impromptu speeches, and sort of a job interview event. And so they can medal in all these different events based on how they're competing against other schools. So the kids work really hard all year, including the summer, kind of leading up to this one day, and then they perform on that day. And so, like I said, they participated last year at Nationals and earned 6th place in the small school division. So next slide. So there they are. Here's some of them. 75 individual medals on Saturday, and the second and third highest scoring members in the state in Nee and Destiny right here to my left. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. So next slide, please. So here's the proposal for the itinerary. You'll find that on the budget as well in front of you, but basically they'll be flying out of Boston, taking the Concord coach from Portland to Boston the morning of the 26th. They'll be missing 3 school days. The competition takes place on that Thursday and Friday, a 2-day event. There's a hotel, the Embassy Suites and Convention Center at the Hilton. The competition takes place right there, so they'll be in the hotel. It's required to stay at one of those 2 hotels for the event. Saturday we have awards. Hopefully we'll be getting some more medals. We got 6 actually last year, which is pretty amazing. And Saturday we'll have a little bit of time to explore the area. And Sunday we'll be coming home fairly late. So next slide, please. So really, I think it's more than just the competition. It's really an experience, right? Going to Texas, a place many of us have never been. Some students here have never really traveled that much. It's a chance to take in another culture as well as meet all these teams, some amazing teams and kids from all over the country who really are high performing and show these guys sort of the next level from what I've seen. And really, I think that's the key to the experience of why we're asking to do this. I think it's really important beyond just the competition. It will be led by two experienced chaperones in Jamie Bushi and Katie Stubbs. Jamie took the team when they went to nationals in Minneapolis in 2019. So he's well versed in bringing these kids around, and they were also chaperones when we went to Boston earlier this year, so they know the kids well. I'm currently on parental leave. I have a new baby at home, so that's why I won't be going. And so I think next slide, please. Sure. Nee had some wonderful images that unfortunately are missed, but that's the hotel. Thought it looked exciting. There's some other stuff Nee put in, but we'll see you next time. There's no next time. Okay, so kind of importantly, and this was adjusted on the Canva and it's adjusted in front of you, but we basically have two options. The team has done a fantastic job in just the 2 days since the event of finding a lot of money from a variety of places. So a lot of money is already pledged, and there's more on that in the next slide. In front of you for the board on the budget, there's one in green and there's one in yellow. And basically, there are 3 members of the team who were alternates, so 9 will be competing, and 3 would be alternates for those 9. And we would really like to take all 12. I think it's important they're part of the team. And so that number that we're asking or that we're proposing is for the original 9. It was just adjusted today based on kind of conversations with parents and with Mr. Aliberti. So it's actually $13,451 for 12 members. And again, that's in front of you. And it's itemized basically by flights. That will change slightly based on a group rate. That's just based on early research on basically the cheapest that fit our timeline. The hotel's pretty set. It's $159 a night for the academic decathlon rate. It would just be one additional room for the alternates. And then there's some cost associated with getting to and from the airport, and we're asking families to cover food for the students while they're there. And so if we go to the next slide, I think it's the final slide. Fundraising already, we have a significant amount in our co-curricular account, $2,898. Hoping to go to boosters with this. They were really helpful 4 years ago in 2019. We set up, Josh actually, who is our budget man, passing out these earlier, set up a GoFundMe page, which has already raised $2,800 pledged in maybe 36 hours. So that's pretty amazing. We've had private donations offered, business donations. I just received a couple of emails as I was coming in from people hoping to support the team. So I think the community has really done an amazing job in coming together. A number of teachers have also helped out in terms of fundraising where I'm not directly at school right now. So I think the fundraising is doable. Obviously, it's a pretty tight timeline. Our state competition was late this year, but that's basically our proposal for sources of income. So we really wanted to let you know as the board that we have a plan of the itinerary of how to get there in a safe and secure way with experienced chaperones, and we have a way to pay for it. So that's really the goal, and that we're not asking the school district itself for any money beyond what's already budgeted. So I think the final slide might be just questions. So I guess that would be the point where I'd say I could turn it over to you, but also I wonder if any of the members of Academic Decathlon would talk about what they might get out of the experience and why they would like to go.
I just wanted to mention I looked at the GoFundMe like not 10 minutes ago. It was close to 2,900.
Nice. So anyone want to talk about Texas?
I just, again, think it would be a really amazing experience. The furthest I've traveled really in my life is like Pennsylvania, and we've just worked so hard over the last 8-9 months, over the summer, just pouring not literal, blood, sweat, and tears. We've sacrificed a lot. We've had a lot. It's been a hard journey. So we've worked really hard for this. It's something that's been really motivating us for the longest time. it's a hard class. A lot of people drop because it's so hard, and we've been working so hard. So this is what we need.
Was it hard?
It was.
Yeah, going off of that, I think that just this team is really nice. I mean, it's my freshman year, so this is all super new to me, and it's sort of like academic decathlon seems to be sort of its own little community, and I think that this experience would be really valuable for not only academics but like a social aspect, and it honestly would just be like, devastating to not go.
Watching this group go to Boston, so I've never seen a more excited group of kids. I'm turned to an art museum. It was like so happy. They were supposed to be quiet because we're in an art museum, but they were like, "I've seen that in that packet. That's real life. Oh my gosh, that one exists here." It was a phenomenal experience, and I think this would benefit them because Texas is pretty cool.
I really sobbed when I found out we won.
Bob? Questions?
Yeah, again, congratulations on what you've done. I'm going to support this because sending you down there to represent yourselves and our school and the school system and all the staff that have contributed to your educational progress to this point throughout your time here in the RSU. You represent all of those, and you represent the community that supports the school system as well. You may or may not know, but I spent a lot of years in the Navy, and I met people from all over this country, and it's interesting to meet people that talk a little bit different than we do, and use different words for the same thing, and just to hear what they have to say about their own. So as much as you can interact with others, and not so much just yourselves, you'll get, I think, a really wonderful experience. So I congratulate you. I don't have any questions. Just enjoy yourselves and do your best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to piggyback off that, when you go to Texas, I would encourage you to make connections because you are going to connect to other high-achieving students across the country.
Christine?
Oh, my microphone. I do that all the time. I'm sorry. I know, I'm sorry. So to make sure to make those intentional connections because you never know how those connections will help you in the long run. So don't just focus on the academic piece. I know that's important, but the social piece as well.
To help with that, they usually pair them up with another team. So 4 years ago, we were.
The people online cannot hear you.
That's probably good. So 4 years ago, the team got paired up with a team from London. So it's not just country-wise. I'm pretty nervous here. There's a lot of people. Whew. I can teach in front of kids, but so they got paired up with a team from London, and there were teams from Asia. So it wasn't just U.S. It was the world, and it was very interesting because we decided to give gifts to the team from London. We didn't get anything in return, but that's okay. That's learning. We're giving. We gave him some Oak Hill merch. We gave him some maple candies to represent Maine. But a couple weeks later, there was a video that came from London, and they were using Oak Hill pencils in the school. And they were showing it. So Oak Hill made it to London. So, and Miss Roy is gone. Oh, no. So she was stranded for 1 day in Portland. I was canceled for 2 days in Minnesota. So we got back safely. Again, very nervous here, sorry, but they deserve it. I will bring them back safely. They're awesome. That was awful.
I just wanted to say, is mine working? Okay. I just want to say congratulations as well, and I hope that you guys enjoy your trip. Is the GoFundMe something that we could share on like the school Facebook and websites and stuff? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the town sites.
We'll definitely be on that, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions?
I just want to say congratulations to all of you and a lot of faces I know. I had as students, so it's wonderful to see either you were a first grader of mine or a second or third, so it's wonderful to see all of the challenges you've met and accomplished. So kudos to all of you.
Seeing as there's no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All right, congratulations, good luck. Have fun.
Thank you.
So at this time, all the students, you may go home, do your homework, do all that great stuff. All right, so the consideration of minutes, 2.1, to approve the minutes of the March 8, 2023 Board of Directors meeting.
Second.
All right, any questions, comments? Seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those not? All those abstaining? At this time, we'll move down to public comment. I offer the mic to those who are here in our meeting or online. Once you approach the mic, please go ahead and give us your name and the town that you are from.
My name's Megan. I live in Wales. I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and I'm here to discuss the early release late start. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that I hope that the board would consider after we've been through a whole year of this. I just wanted to mention, if staying with the early release, I believe it needs to be addressed that our kids are losing an extra hour every week that we do this. I think it's been a truly amazing year for the teachers to grow. That extra 2 hours has been great for them, or the 2 hours. But I really think the kids need to get back in the classroom for some of that time at least. So my ideas would be either doing it the 1 hour. I know that was hard for the teachers to get the kids out and all of that. But my other idea was just to do it once or twice a month, like some other schools do. I just think, I believe it amounts to about 30 hours that they're missing during the year, and I just think they need to be in the classroom. And then another alternative, or another item, if you want to stay with weekly, is to consider having those full day Wednesdays on short weeks, because there's a lot of those short weeks where the kids are also missing a lot of school that week. And then I preferred the late start. I realize that now there are a lot more busing issues as well, but I wanted to touch on what Bob touched on last year when it was brought up about how the brain growth in the older kids, the middle school and high school, is just so big at that point that they could really use that extra hour of sleep. And that's all. I did want to thank you all for your commitment to the board and to our schools. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Megan? Anyone else? Yes, there's none. Any petitions or communications? 5 reports. Superintendent's report.
So most of the report was congratulating all the wonderful things that have been happening. So I'll just, and I also highlighted in here that we have a group of students that participated in, I believe it's AP Literature. I don't know if that was the course, the Trinket book. I'm looking at you, Kathy, because it was a special course for. I think it's AP Lit, but I think it's AP Lit and Language. Yeah. So I don't know if you noticed it, but they did write a book on trinkets and knickknacks, and it's a really amazing book, and I put a link there. It's only $12, but what the students did is had a residency with the telling room, and they had to pick 4 objects that from, this cup means nothing really to someone, and then bring it alive through a story. And really, just amazing to listen to how we don't always write in a box. You're taught there's so many paragraphs. You have to begin with this. And it allowed them to kind of think outside that. And one student wrote from a perspective of its dog, and it was interviewed. The dog was interviewed and answering. Just being creative in the way you can write. It doesn't always have to be a scripted way. It can be creative. So The book has, each author did 4 pictures, and the teacher also participated, which was Jeremy Young, and his stories are also in there. So I do want to give a shout out to that. And then what was not noted, which you all received an email, but we had 7 LRTC students win medals in Bangor for Skills USA. We had 1 gold in plumbing and knowledge, 2 silver, 1 in welding, sculpture, and 1 in plumbing, and then 4 bronze in heating, automotive maintenance, light repair, criminal justice, and carpentry. So that was exciting news. And also our one-act play, although they didn't win the one-act play competition, they did receive awards. They received for director and student playwright. As you remember, a student wrote the play and also directed it. Also for our sound, and there were 4 students recognized for all festival cast. So, you know, a shout out to them as well. Well, lots of great things going on. We should be really proud of our Oak Hill Raiders.
5.2, no assistant superintendent report. 5.3, financial report will be April 12th meeting. 5.4, administrators report. Nelson and Michaela.
No problem. Okay. Good evening. I'm just going to touch upon a couple quick things going on at Libby Tozier recently. Last night, we had our spring concert and literacy night. The entire staff participated in having kids go to various rooms throughout the school. Each teacher had their own literacy event inside of the room, and then they rotated. This was put on by our literacy committee and our literacy coach, Becky D'Alessandro. And then at 6:10, we had our concert in the gymnasium, as you can see up in the top right-hand corner. We had almost about 98% attendance at the concert last night. It was truly amazing. It was standing room only, and it was very exciting because the kids got to show what they've been practicing this year, putting a lot of time and effort into it. I can hear it from my office, and a lot of it just really brought the community together, put a smile on everyone's face, and it was a really great opportunity for all of us. We also had Sparks Arc come in for our Read Across America Week in the lower right-hand corner. Part of our positivity within the schools, our kindness cart, is up in the left-hand corner. That is our amazing pre-K teacher, Jan LaValle, who heads that up. And then also our tag award this winter, thanks to the PTA, is Brenda Manser, our amazing special education teacher. And we're going to touch upon Carrie Ricker real quick.
Okay, at Carrie Ricker, some of the things that really stood out this past month was the Animal Expo in Miss Lurch's room, where they were learning about habitats and got to create their own animal that adapted to the habitats based on the different features that they had. So that was really fun, and they were able to do a presentation and had an open room policy where other classes and staff was able to walk in and get that all explained to them, and they were so proud. It was truly wonderful. We also had Random Acts of Kindness Month, and so we had a lot of different challenges from students over the speaker in the morning. And then we had a long chain at our assembly going of all the different acts of kindness. So we got to see those little kindness pieces all together, and it made a huge impact. Lastly, we have some superstars in the top right corner of doing some group work independently in the hallway. And those 4th graders are really becoming leaders within our building, and it's really nice to see. So, does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, Jenny, and Annie?
You might need your mic.
Me? I usually can talk pretty loud.
Annie's online, so she'll start first.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Am I up?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear us?
Can't hear anything.
Go ahead, Annie, I can hear you.
Okay. It's awkward, I just can't hear anybody over there. Okay, so can we switch slides? All right. This February 24th community meeting, we highlighted the kindness bulbs that made it all the way around the gym. We had the students guess how many bulbs there were, and we revealed the number. That was 441. So that was exciting. Thanks to Maureen McDonald for putting this together, and the support of so many of the ed techs who helped her put them all up. Pick a better snack had roasted chickpeas. They weren't a great hit, but I'm sure they were better when they were fresh and punchy. Interesting snack. Read Across America, what was already mentioned from Libby Tozier and Carrie Ricker, but so we had all the same like dress up days as well, and we had a lot of fun with that. And we look forward to tomorrow. We have our Oak Hill High School Reader's Theater coming in to do their puppet or their Reader's Theater show. Sorry. All right, next slide. I'm trying to be quick for you. So this is kind of just like this is the Sparks Arc event. 197 community members came to this. It was a great turnout. It was a lot of fun. Next slide. Here for Read Across America, we have one of our resource teachers, Miss Mishu, playing a very active game in the gym for some literacy skills. And then there's some pictures at the bottom here of the math science, and we had so much fun with the students. It was a really interactive show, and a lot of students got to participate, and they had a lot of fun with that. Next slide. So this is just focusing on the professional development aspect of things. We had our celebration from the end of our literacy celebration, from our literacy cycles, and you can't see the charcuterie boards, but they were amazing, and there was mocktails, and thanks to Rebecca D'Alessandro, our literacy coach, for putting all this together. And now we're focusing on some math for the next few weeks. So we've got some great things going on in the professional development department. Next slide. We have our February tag winner, Maureen McDonald. Couldn't be a more deserving winner of that. We have some pictures here of lots of students wearing green for St. Patrick's Day. On the bottom right corner, there's some students learning an Irish jig in music class. And in the middle, you can see staff is actually enjoying some kind of fun activities with the March Madness competition that's been going on this whole month. Thanks to Kathy for putting that together, and Tanya for helping to sort of get that going in the office for all the individual competitions. All right, next slide. Thank you very much.
All right. Next slide. Oh, questions? Hi, everyone. So at Oak Hill Middle School, the staff and students continue working on strengthening our school community. Before February break, we participated in a fun-filled week that the Student Council hosted, and we had daily events including Twin Day, Dress Like a Teacher Day, Bring Anything But a Backpack Day, which was definitely a hit, and you can see in some of those pictures up there some of the creative ways students chose to bring their items to school. We had a Decades Day and a Sports Jersey Hat Day. Throughout the week, advisory groups also participated in a friendly penny competition, and we raised some money that will be donated to the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital. Next slide. The week's events wrapped up with a fun school-wide assembly, and you can see grades 5 through 8 in the gym there. Next slide.
Lastly, we'd like to give you a sneak peek in some of the exciting learning activities students are doing at Oak Hill Middle School. 7th grade humanities students created dioramas as a culminating unit activity for their Native American research project. We've included a few photos of their creations. 7th grade science students had the opportunity to showcase their learning by teaching 6th grade science students what they learned about the transfer of energy through the Rube Goldberg chain reaction. I didn't know either. So this is a machine intentionally designed to perform a simple task in an indirect and overly complicated way. In our short video, you'll see students having fun and the science teacher being the guinea pig while they're learning. Okay, yeah, I think, can you make it bigger? I don't know if you can. Any questions?
Thank you. Okay. Next will be Marco and Suzanne.
Hi guys, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm at home this evening, so my apologies for not being present. But I do just have a couple of quick things. Basically, the kids that were here were my presentation, so if you just kick it to the next slide. So, as you guys know, 25 state championships in a row for FBLA. Great group of kids. Really excited for them and their advisors. Next slide, please. Academic decathlon, again, second state title in a row. Again, wonderful group of students, and do appreciate your support in regards to traveling to nationals. Should be an amazing experience for them. And then last slide from me is 8th grade parent night. We held that last Thursday evening, and it was an amazing event. You can see we had a huge turnout, and a huge thanks to both Amy and Jenny at the middle school for getting the word out to our middle school 8th grade parents and students as they came out in droves. And so I usually start this evening with about a half an hour conversation with parents and students in regards to transition to Oak Hill High School. We raffle off a number of items, and then we have many of our OHLA and NHS students give tours of the building. And we have our departments and clubs and organizations set up tables so that parents and students can take a look at what's offered, both academically, but for both, and then for co and extracurricular activities. So again, it was a fantastic turnout, a really nice way to kind of welcome the class of 2027, which always blows my mind every time we get a new group in. It's, you know, years out. I don't know. It makes me feel old to a certain extent. But it was just a really wonderful evening, and I appreciate everybody's help and support in making it happen. So thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you, Marco. All right. Director's report will be April 12th. We will hear from Destiny next meeting. No, is it this meeting? Oh my God, it is. Sorry, this meeting. Sorry, Destiny.
Hi guys. So, March was obviously a very busy month. It's kind of an inside joke between a lot of the high schoolers that March is like the worst month of the year, but it's stressful, but we win a lot. It goes well. It always goes well. It's just a lot of pressure. But so we had FBLA. Our conference was so much fun. We were supposed to come back Tuesday, but because of the storm, we stayed another night. There was a lot of going to the mall, which was really cool, really fun experience. There was a hypnotist. I was very skeptical, but there was some crazy things going on. It was a lot of fun. There was lots of kids. He was able to hypnotize them to act like animals, sing like Katy Perry. Very interesting. There was a taco bar, a pasta bar. It was really nice to like dress in a business attire for a couple of the days. So that was very fun. Great to meet a bunch of other kids from other schools. We did an ice cream social. There was just a lot of networking, lots of friends made, and it was just a really great experience. So I'm very grateful for that. Academic decathlon was the weekend after, so that was a lot, but it went really well. It was our first ever in-person competition. We got there at Monmouth Academy at 8 in the morning, and we competed until about 4. It was a long day, but it actually went by pretty quickly, a lot quicker than I thought. it would. And we had a great turnout. We won 75 medals out of 120. It was just a really amazing experience. Oh, and for FBLA, we had 3 students elected onto the state board. So we had me for vice president, Sarah Rosignol for reporter, and I was elected treasurer. So that was another really great experience. Tomorrow, a Reader's Theater will be visiting the primary schools to read a story called Hiccup, which is about like a young Viking learning how to be brave. So that's really interesting and exciting. And that's a lot of what's happened in March. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move down to 6, old business. Our cost centers 8 through 11.
Okay. Okay. Now we're going to give you out materials as we go. Okay.
8 through 11. I'm going to put in the front for the post-it.
This is the justification for the front of your binder.
Oh, it's Jonathan's night.
Oh,
It is. Oh, it is.
oh, it is.
Be kind and gentle. You want 8 now?
All right, so you have, yes, so we're going to go through the presentation. Of course, cost center 8 is first, so if you move your tab to 8, feel like you're in school, maybe it's getting us back, yeah, open. Be careful opening and not getting your fingers caught in the pinchy. Everybody's all set? All right. So just like we did last Wednesday, we're going to do a similar thing. Is the presentation is the overview, and then you have all the materials to back it up. And then you have homework again for the week, yeah, where you can look into it, send us questions, and then we can get back to you and continue to answer things that come up. This evening, we're going to cover transportation, maintenance, debt service, and all other expenditures, which really are the nutrition department. So we're kicking off with transportation. And in this cost center is half of the director of operations salary. And then they have administrative assistant position that we talked about last week. And so just as a reminder, there was both departments, the director of operations and technology director talked out how can they shift some things in their departments to create administrative assistant position. And the central office used to have an additional assistant to support, and that position has not been there. I think there was an attempt to put it in last year as well, and it did not stay in. So in transportation, you'll see a reduction, which I'll get later in the notes, but there's a reduction of a open bus position of the 3 open bus positions. So there's still 2 open bus positions. So one of those positions was used for the creation of the .5 administrative assistant. Then we have 1 head bus driver, which is one of our regular drivers who gets an additional hourly wage to be the head bus driver. And as Jonathan has said many a time, the goal is to not have Kathy Perry driving every single day, but to do some of other work to support the transportation department. That has, I think, happened once or twice. A week, okay, a week. There's 10 bus drivers, 1 sub driver, 1 LRTC driver. I want to do, if anybody from Lisbon is watching, we do appreciate Lisbon School Department supporting driving LRTC when we don't have drivers. They do come and help us out, which is awesome. And then we have a part-time courier driver. So I'm going to have Jonathan talk about his slides, starting with bus inventory and what we have available.
So I put together a little graph that could just better illustrate what we have for the number of buses in our fleet in the current years, just to give you just a snapshot of the health of the fleet, right? So at the top of that bar graph, it starts with 2014, indicates that we have one bus, and so on and so forth. So majority of the fleet you see is 2018 and newer, which is great. I would say overall, talking with other operations and transportation directors, we actually have a very healthy bus fleet, and what I mean by that is just new. Everything's working as it should. It does get a lot of mileage, of course, but overall very healthy. So we have 20 total buses. We have 13 buses that are regularly used. We have 7 spares, and we have 2 passenger vans that we use pretty regularly for field trips or sporting events, things like that, when it might be more cost effective to take a van rather than take an entire bus for 5 kids, or if we just do not have the capacity with bus drivers right now. So overall, a very healthy fleet.
So the notes here in the transportation cost center is that reorganization for the administrative assistant position. So I've spoken about that. The other half is in cost center 5. We also had an increase in homeless transportation. So as we've increased that budget by about $8,000, so you'll see that. And then we did remove the bus replacement funds. So when Jonathan and I spoke this year around putting in for a bus replacement with the DOE, and you can talk about Jonathan, but we don't qualify right now because our fleet is, so you have to have age and you have to have mileage. So even if we have an older bus, it has to have a certain level of mileage, and ours does not. So like Jonathan said, we'd have to drive that one around quite a bit more in order to qualify. So that is, we know that that has been in there as kind of a placeholder, and we have removed it due to knowing that the budget is going to be tight this year. So I want you to have that in mind. You will notice it has been removed. Okay? So overall, in transportation, this cost center is up $35,798, which is a 3.25% increase. And it's really about wages and their contracts. So you'll notice the salary line is most of the impact. Salary benefits. Now the big one. The one we've all been waiting for. The maintenance budget. So it covers 0.5 of the Director of Operations, 18 custodial staff, including 3 head custodians. So of the staff, we also have folks that receive a higher wage acting as the head custodians. And they cover, oh, sorry, Kathy, and 6 locations. So Kathy's passing out. Thank you. I get on a roll. It's good. So, yep, go to your next tab. There are additional handouts that we're providing as well. So keep room in that cost center 9 spot because we have handouts.
Should we just have the rest of them, or do we have to do one at a time? That's a lot of.
Thank you.
I'll be patient.
It's really just to keep it organized. That's all. Okay, so okay. So Jonathan oversees the custodial, the maintenance issues, all the vendors that go to our schools, inspections, everything that goes into this is overseen by his department. So, next slide. So, Jonathan, do you want to cover the next two slides?
So this slide just has a quick overview of each school and the staff at each of those schools. So at the high school, we have one head custodian, one day shift custodian, and I put 2.5 night shift. We technically have 3, but that one person is split here and comes here and helps, every night cleaning here. Oak Hill Middle School, you'll see 0.5 head custodian. That's because Oak Hill Middle School and Sabata's primary, they split their head custodian, so she's back and forth working diligently with those two schools. Each of those have one day shift custodian. The middle school has 2 night shift, and the Sabata's primary has 1 night shift custodian. Carrie Ricker, Libby Tozier, same scenario. So we have one head custodian who goes back and forth between the two schools. Each of them have one day shift custodian, and each have 2 night shift custodians. And then central office, I did put the half a night shift because that person who is a night shift at high school comes here and helps clean.
And you had asked at the last meeting for us to point out if there were, places where things had been reallocated or moved. So similar to our instructional staff and some of the administrators, if we knew that what had been budgeted wasn't reflecting actual locations, we've done our best to split those out. So if you see, when you look at the salary cover sheet for maintenance, there's some variation in the, increases and decreases in the salary by school, and that's because we've tried to put them in the budget where they currently are.
The next slide is just a general overview of some of the equipment that we have. So basically, where does some of this money go to as far as maintenance and upkeep, right? So I won't read every single thing on there, but you can see it's broken up by grounds equipment, which is pretty much tractors and the Coyote UTVs, which are great for plowing and sanding in the wintertime. Custodial equipment, so anything from floor scrubbers to carpet extractors to floor buffers, the whole 9. Every school has a aerial lift of some kind. We do have some field maintenance equipment, and as you can see, the high school having the most just because it has the bigger fields, and then working their way down. And then other is anything from miscellaneous equipment, pressure washers, snow blowers, generators. So the high school has a generator, the middle school has a generator, and Carrie Ricker School has a generator.
So are these all owned? There's not leases on any of this?
No, this is all owned RSU4 property, yes.
The middle school tractor has a payment.
Right, we talked about that last year. Or does it not?
We're supposed to.
Yeah, it was
No,
supposed
I think that was paid in full out of last year's. I think we were able to finagle some money and make it paid in completion out of last year's budget. Yes, we paid it off, so nothing is, there's nothing outstanding, but we can double check that if you need. Next slide.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. I'm waiting for you. You're on a roll. So, other items you'll see in here is safety equipment, which Jonathan will talk about in the next slide. Snow removal, we contract for snow removal. Travel reimbursement, our workman's comp is in this cost center, repair and maintenance. And we're going to go over a handout with you. And then custodial supplies, any energy costs, utilities, telephone, our insurance for general liability and building content, our facility inspections, and our Siemens performance contract payments you will see in this cost center. So, yes, and then we'll go with Jonathan to explain what's being done and what's being deferred.
Additionally, you'll see that snow removal lines have been added to each building, and that contract has been allocated by an appropriate percentage. In years past, it was kind of thrown into two buildings, the total contract, but it does cover the entire district. So you'll see new lines that are added, and just a note on those lines saying that they're new and it's been split out.
So before Jonathan gets started on budgeted maintenance, repair, and services and going over deferred, we want to make sure that you and the public understand that this budget was close to $700,000 increase. And so we talked a lot about bringing that down. And so you'll see in the final slide around this cost center a $388,000 increase. So we want you to see what was removed from the budget, and then you'll have to make decisions on where you want this to land. And so I'm going to have Jonathan go through the handout and through this next slide.
Okay, so this slide just outlines a few things that are accounted for in this year's budget that maybe won't be accounted for in the future budgets. So every year you have your reoccurring inspections, general repairs, things of that nature. These are some things that I have brought up that we're looking to address in this year's budget. And I'll just go quickly school by school. So Libby Tozier, we have the feasibility study in there that we've all been talking about. Sewer pump panel is 40 years old there and about to fail, and we will have a much bigger and costly problem if we don't address that before it does fail. Playground fencing, for anyone who's seen Libby Tozier's fencing over there, the space is way too big. There's too many gaps and holes. There's complaints about kids getting in and out inappropriately and affecting their safety. So we're looking to shrink that down, and we're actually going to cut the cost quite a bit by reusing the fencing and just shrinking the play space to a more age-appropriate area. Bottled drinking water, and then the Verkada key cards. So you'll see the Verkada key cards throughout. I'm very big on getting those into our schools. The middle school, of course, has already been done, so you won't see that there, but you'll see it in the other schools. Sabatis Primary, again, the feasibility study, bottled drinking water, the Verkada key cards. Carrie Ricker, salt sheds. So I had talked about this at a director's report. We were paying anywhere from $500 to $600 a ton for 50-pound bags of salt. So not only was that really expensive, but you're toying with people throwing their backs out, picking up 50-pound bags all the time. So we worked with our plowing vendor. He is able to deliver us 1 ton of salt, which is the equivalent to the pallet that I just spoke of, for $90. So huge cost savings. The salt shed, we're just budgeting for materials because we have people who are able to donate their time and do it for us. So in reality, it'll pay for itself very quickly. So we're excited to introduce those, something that's a more permanent structure to protect the salt from the elements. So you see Carrie Ricker has that, but it's kind of split between Carrie Ricker and Libby Tozier. It's meant for both places. And then the Verkada key cards. The middle school, bleacher repair and salt shed. Bleachers right now, we're having some trouble with them coming in and out. It's causing safety concerns for both those who are operating it coming in and out, and then those students who are going up and down. So that was one that we felt, for safety reasons, for both our employees and students, it was really important to throw in there. At the high school, again, salt shed. Engineered field drawings. So for the potential new field hockey field, we really need that site engineered properly. So that cost is thrown into that school's budget this year. Ceiling insulation, there's a wing of the school that is poorly insulated. I think, as you've all seen, we can agree that there's other portions of that building that are poorly insulated, but this is a section of ceiling that I am shocked did not freeze during that freeze up. It was 40 degrees in that hallway the night that I was there for the guidance wing, and it scares me tremendously that that's going to happen again. So that's in there, at least for a portion of the building. Sprinkler glycol repair, so our sprinkler systems froze, and the wet side of the system is supposed to have a glycol in it, which is basically an antifreeze. We have a quote from the guy who does all our sprinkler inspections and repair work, so I'm looking to throw that back in there to, again, be proactive. And of course, the Verkada key cards. And then here at Central Office, would really like to have that key card entry system as well. This is the only building that is completely unsecured to the public. Not to say we want to lock people out, but we want to keep our staff safe in the event of something. So we would have that key card entry in here to the building as well. Next slide. Number 1. Oh, okay. You want me to talk about that now? Okay, so if you...
Yes, I do.
Sure. Let me get to that. So you have a handout here, and it's the one that says Cost Center 9 Maintenance Deferred Facility Expenses. So I thought it would be best if I was able to illustrate what I wanted to get done this year in this budget, but felt maybe had to be pulled out in order to meet our budget restrictions or our needs as far as keeping the budget down. And I broke that up by school and put rough costs associated with that. So everyone should be able to flip open to Carrie Ricker and see that. So on the maintenance and repair side, we're looking at an art room floor replacement. The garage repairs, it's currently leaking water terribly, falling apart, rotting in spaces, and causing things inside to get wet. Driveway, sidewalk crack repair, entry floor replacement, and some dead tree removal. And on the equipment side, a new commercial lawnmower for the amount of grass there that we have, and trying to be more efficient with our time. So you see the two totals under there for maintenance, repairs, and equipment, and that similar format goes as we go page by page. Some schools do not have equipment needs that are being deferred, but certainly all of them have maintenance. At the middle school, we have a lot of locker repairs that we need to do. $10,000 is a rough budget. That's based on the number of lockers that I currently know have some issues, but that could be fluctuating. Looking to slowly do carpet replacement in a lot of the buildings. They harbor some dirt and debris, and we're looking to go more over to the tile side of things to keep things cleaner for our students and easier to clean for our staff. Bathroom faucet replacements. The building was installed with, and maybe at the time, good faucets, but honestly at this point, a lot of them are failing, so we're having to swap those out, and that comes at a cost, of course. And then some window shades that are failing. Deb has been great, just as Jay and Brenda, for my head custodians, letting me know when these things are failing, but unfortunately that also means it comes at a cost. So you can see what these totals look like as we go through, and if anyone has questions, please stop me. I know I'm talking a mile a minute here, but Libby Tozier has a few, and again, these are just what I was planning on trying to do this year. This is not including the repairs known for the 5-year capital improvement plan, so that is outlined separately, which I will speak on. Gym floor renovation. The floor is the top coat, or the poly seal, basically, that protects the floor from the paint and the wood, is failing and falling apart. It's chipping away. Every time you try and clean it up, it actually just chips it more. So that was something that I got a quote from the guy who usually comes in and does some resealing, and he's giving me a quote to do that. Just generic painting, specifically on the exterior of the building, carpet replacement again in some rooms. We have a lot of windows that just need generic repairing to keep secure and closed, and some roof leaking repair, not to include actually replacing the entire roof, but just to fix some current leaks that we have. Sebastian Primary School, again, just what I'm thinking to do, or what I was trying to do this year. We have some big potholes out there. I'm sure have all seen them. They're a slip, trip, fall hazard. They make plowing. Our plow guy does not appreciate having those. That damage his equipment, and the buses and cars that go through don't appreciate it either. So that was something I was looking to try and just patch. And again, window repairs. We have a lot of windows that either don't open, or when they open, they don't like to close. So we obviously want to try and attack some of those things. Finally, at the high school, you'll see maintenance and equipment. So again, carpet replacement. We're again trying to get the carpet out of the buildings. Some window treatments, so either failing window shades, or the ones for the hall classrooms. So in the event of a lockdown, they have the ability to close off that space and be unseen, I suppose, from an intruder. Back entrance paving. There was another slip, trip, fall. It was a back entrance to the building that was commonly used by staff. There was a pretty large hole in the pavement that was we were looking to try and patch, so we didn't have another slip, trip, fall incident. And some front entrance signs. So they're from the 80s. I think we can all agree that having some nice new signs maybe brings a little bit of life and light to the entrance of the high school. And these, I thought maybe that'd be something that'd be fun to put in there. But again, with the cuts we're looking to try and make, it was certainly a want more than a need, but wanted to include that anyways. And then on the equipment side, we have a water cannon. For those that don't know what a water cannon is, it's basically a gas-powered machine that hooks up to our water source outside and allows us to water the fields more appropriately. So rather than using your traditional spigot and attachment at your house, we have something that's a lot more, commercial, so it can get to the fields a little bit better. Right now we have one. We have had to repair it quite a bit, but it does still work. But you've got to imagine how many fields we have in the current conditions. Sometimes over the fall when it's dry, we need to get those fields watered. So that was definitely a want. And then also a pickup truck for the district. Having to, either clean up snow with the plow in the winter, or moving risers for performances between schools. Myself and Brenda, the head custodian at Carrie Ricker, are the only ones with pickup trucks, so sometimes that proves to be difficult. So having one would be certainly convenient. Again, more of a want than a need, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyways. Final slide just kind of tallies everything up, so you can just get a rough idea of what that looks like. So. Roughly $169,350 in deferred maintenance and repairs, and about $54,000 in deferred equipment. So that sort of wraps that up. But again, I want to stress that having this out in front, rather than me saying, "Oh, I just made $170,000 worth of cuts and you trust that they were cut, I want to show what that looks like and then allow you as the board to maybe decide, oh, we really do need that. Let's maybe try and find a way to get that in. Yes?
So this list of items that we have that we're not putting in, well, we're not suggesting they go into the budget. When do we play catch up?
It's a good point. I mean, having it documented here is a good way to show that it was deferred this year. And it would be, if we decided to, pass the budget as it is without putting these items back in, they would be considered, I think, for the following year. They would also probably make their way onto the 5-year plan. You'll see a lot of these items when you get to the 5-year plan, they're showing in at least FY 24, 25, or beyond. So a lot of those items are in there, which you want to draw attention to that next. So if you fold to your second handout that I've so graciously given you, it is our 5-year capital improvement
I
plan.
have a question though first.
Oh, sure.
All right, so you said this cost center was going to go up 700,000, but you've cut some out, so you're accounting here for 230,000 when you was close to 400,000 that you reduced it. What was the other? So we're kind of lacking here. Is it deferred, or was it just stuff that we just took out?
So, because you're adding what I put for 223 plus the 300, and I didn't get to 798, is what you're saying. Right.
Right.
Yeah, so every line went through. These were the big repair and maintenance items that were deferred, but everything went through a comb of what was in there, looking at actuals and looking at, okay, here's this line, this is where it was budgeted this year, what are the actuals in the last 3 years. So there were other lines that were adjusted. So we didn't know everything. What I wanted him to know, it was what was maintenance and repair that we were deferring.
All right, because it's like a couple 100,000 difference. Roughly.
Yeah. So it wasn't including everything that he reduced, yes. And then we have the capital improvement plan, then I'll talk about a possible capital reserve fund discussion.
So in front of you is the 5-year capital improvement plan that I've put together. Again, I want to just start or preface by saying this is a working draft. The costs are certainly still a working document, and this can be added to and taken away from at any time. There's just things that I had heard from community members, from board members, from custodians, and from vendors who have been in the district quite a while. Things that we feel as though need to be at least on paper somewhere and on our minds for the next 5 years. I won't necessarily go through every single line item, but I at least wanted you to see at the high school, the middle school, and the 3 elementary schools what we were looking at for possible work. And I'll just highlight a few big ones too that maybe we just want to put our eyes on. So at the high school, I'll point out the football field retaining wall. So in the back of the end zone, you'll see it slopes very aggressively, and that's only going to get worse. And I've heard from Brian and the MPA that there's been some safety concerns about football players using that field. So that's something that maybe down the road we should consider building a retaining wall there to build that field back up so it's in a safe and manageable condition. So that's, I mean, again, you can read through it and ask me questions as you like, but I'll just point out some of the big ones. The Oak Hill Middle School, a lot of them that I had talked about already in deferred costs. But again, this is a working document, so if there's things that I'm missing, I'm not the only eyes and brain into this. So all the help that people want to give me for suggestions, I'm open to. Sabattis Primary School certainly has quite a few more. We know the condition and the state of that school. We know we haven't been doing a ton of stuff into it until we decide what we want to do. But again, this is now out here in front of us for us to look at and get an idea of, over the next 5 years, what are some things we should be considering. And then over to Carrie Ricker. A lot of those things were things that I talked about in the deferred maintenance. Another one there is the driveway and the sidewalk patching repair. That's, relatively de minimis overall, but you could argue that there's some places that should be repaved altogether, especially as we move along year to year, things get into a worse condition. And then I believe finally, Libby Tozier, that one appears to be the longest. There's quite a few things here that need to be done in order to either be energy efficient, to bring things up to code. in order to just overall just work better within the building. That building has certainly seen better days, but again, if we put all these things on a 5-year plan, it allows us to sort of see what we need to be doing in the future and not be 1 year, narrow-sighted, right? And that school, I will notate that recovering the roof, I had G&E pop in yesterday just to ask me about if I had any plans for this coming year on repairs because they're so far out. They gave me that rough quote, but they said that roof's getting really close to needing to be recovered. And they're right now roughly a year out as far as the work actually being done. So that's something to consider as well. If we were thinking in FY 24-25, we want to get this done, I have to be on the horn with him yesterday to get that in the schedule. So just some things to be mindful of. Again, this is a working document. And I'd love to have some input from people as they think of things, and we can always tweak numbers and quotes as we get closer. Yes?
Is there a total amount, Jonathan, for the 5-year plan?
Like a district total?
Yeah.
I'd have to do some quick math. I have totaled down below by year, so I'd have to add all that up, but I could certainly get you that. It's
1, 2, 3.
It's substantial.
5. Is the rec helping with any of the field stuff, or if they're able to fundraise, or?
The rec departments?
Right.
Specifically, like say at the high school with the softball field, the field hockey field, or the retaining wall?
Yeah. Cannon, like any of it.
Well, the thing is, the taxpayers already paid for the field. And the rec club in Sabattis anyway is self-funded.
Yeah.
So consequently, I don't think you're going to get the rec club putting money in the fields that the community members are already paying for.
I'm pretty sure that field hockey had money aside at one point to help with it. Yeah, so maybe it's an avenue that could help with some of the, having it listed out, could be something that they could help with some of those things.
Sure.
So some of the funding we've looked at, so to piggyback on you, Laura, we did look into funding through, and the name's not going to come, but we could apply for a grant that helps support property like that field. The issue is not an issue. We can do it, but you have to match the funds. So we've struggled with how to put money in to match that fund. That's one. The other thing is once you get that money, it has to stay the way it was funded. And then let's say we wanted to turn the field suddenly into something else, you have to relocate the same thing in another area. So there's some strings on that, but we've definitely looked at it. The other thing is the revolving loan. You know how this year, the state had the revolving loan only focus on the ADA and roof, and that, emergency type, high stuff. So we're hoping next year they're going to lower, because there were a lot of schools that didn't apply because they weren't priority 1 things, but they might be priority 2 or 3. So we're definitely going to look to apply to that again to handle some of these issues that would qualify, because that's a really excellent deal. So that's on the table as well. We've also talked to the Finance Committee about a capital improvement fund starting, a reserve account. So we're still watching our fund balance to finish this year, because as you know, if we put $400,000 towards the budget for revenue, we have to have that $400,000. So we're watching that, but something we need to talk about more with the Finance Committee is how much would we ask of what may be undesignated fund balance in the year that could be put in a reserve account. How it works is it would have to be a warrant. It would have to be a warrant, 3 parts. 1, to create the capital reserve. 2, to outline the expenditure for that, for what's going to be designated, and then approval to expend it. So we would decide how much is going to go in there, and then start either building up or addressing some of these things we can't put in the fund for thing. So that is one thing we are going to be continuing to talk about, is how, if we have any any money beyond what we need for fund balance to balance the budget, can we put in a capital reserve fund as a starting point for those matching?
Are we allowed to take corporate donations for stuff like this. I
Mhm.
mean, I'd love to see a retaining wall that says Waterman Farm on it, or Hershey's Hardware, whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, like scoreboards and stuff like that. I've seen at other schools where they have corporate donations.
And I think too, from the rec point, like a lot of us are investing in the program for future things. You know what I mean? We're not
Yeah.
investing for our pre-K kid to get on a field. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I look at rec a little differently only because that's our farm for upcoming
Yeah.
residents. So,
Feeder programs, yeah.
but I mean, corporate donations, and they're always looking for write-offs. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So Brian Daniels, who couldn't be here this evening, the athletic director, he has been going to Booster Club and talking to them about how to support, and so they are in process of doing that work. And yeah, so he's looking definitely, because his vision, if he were sitting here, would be, is there a way to get a turf field at some point? So there's a lot of things, and that grant that I can't think of the name of, the grant that we could qualify would support that. They do up to $500,000, and we'd have to match, $250,000 to get the $250,000. So we're definitely looking at different avenues. Okay. Things you're going to see, the additional costs are around the increase in goods to purchase. Things are more expensive, therefore we have to consider that. The other thing, I put the feasibility, we have that in there. We split the $50,000 of the quote that, remember we went over the quote we had from the architect firm that did the original one when you closed Wales Central School, and so they had quoted $50,000. That's what we put in there. We may look at that differently and not spend $50,000, but we put $25,000 at each school. There's a 15% increase in our insurance rates, 135% increase in our kilowatt hour rate, and we did have a decrease, as we anticipated, in our heating fuel. So what's hard is things we know and things we have to plan for. So that's what you'll see as the notes from there. And then
And just something new as well, as you do your homework, you'll see that there are energy lines for liquid propane. So John really wanted to make sure that that was separate from our traditional heating oil so that we can monitor that usage and have those two lines split out. So those accounts are noted. They're right next to the heating oil lines, but you'll see a note that says new line for liquid propane for each of them.
Katie, can you talk a little bit about the feasibility study? We do have a new board member, and the public might not realize that we've been talking about that, so I think it's important just to say it.
Okay, so there's been a big commitment because there was a lot of feedback that Siemens provided, a lot of the quotes and things that were needed in both buildings. So this is a way to take an architect firm that comes in and I'll read you what they had quoted for. They would do site, including site circulation, safety, drainage, utilities, play areas, and potential for expansion. They would analyze physical building needs, identify issues based on visual observation of conditions. They are not going to look into if you have to destructive, removal of things, but they would emphasize the building envelope in terms of thermal and moisture control performance, and the building interior in terms of finishes. Maintenance implications of both interior and exterior materials would be considered. Compliance with ADA, which we know is being addressed in our revolving loan. Mechanical and electrical systems in the building. They'll review code-related issues, maintenance issues, and will assist in developing a long-range plan for scheduled maintenance and upgrades to the systems. They'll do structural conditions in the two buildings, consists of review of original construction drawings and a field review of existing structural conditions, facilities program, current capacity of those facilities and existing plans, enrollment, programming, the Maine Department of Educational guidelines. They are also looking at capital improvement plan to compare anticipated capital improvement costs for both buildings. Yeah, that's for Sabatis Primary and Libby Tozier. And so they would assemble a team of architect, engineers, and cost estimators to gather and analyze the information on the two schools. Allied engineering will review the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, and structural conditions in the building. Sebago Tech next, I don't know what to say, will review the site conditions, and PCM will provide cost estimating services. So that's what would be covered in the feasibility study.
And this is coming because of the vote for the new school was voted down, and then we're trying to figure out where the money needs to be spent, what's happening, because it was going to close both schools. So do we need to close? It's one of those things where we were just trying to figure and give the communities an opportunity to see the things that need to be done in each building.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. And so you can see, oh, sorry, Robbie?
Yeah, Jonathan, and I get the 5-year feasibility study is, I know there's some wants on there, but
Yep.
a lot of that list is needs.
Yes.
So I just quickly added it up, and we're almost at $10 million.
Yep. And that's what we know right now.
And that's just what we know right now.
Yep.
So consequently, if those things like our deferment list get deferred out, they start costing more, you know what I mean? It's compounding. Nothing gets any cheaper, and I would love to be able to fundraise as much as we can to pay for those things, but in reality, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So the need list of that 5-year feasibility study, I figure is probably a little over $8.5 million. So that's just 5 years.
Right.
So consequently, that list isn't going to get any cheaper as we go down the road.
No. Certainly
You
isn't.
didn't have that roof in there for Libby Tozier?
Libby Tozier's roof in the 5-year was
Is it
not
in
in the
there?
deferred
It's
maintenance.
in the, yeah.
Okay, I didn't see it going
Right.
down. Okay.
Yeah.
So consequently, the importance of the feasibility study is going to impact this 5-year plan.
Yes, tremendously. Yeah.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to know on the board that that 5-year feasibility study is very important, so we can get a snapshot of where we need to be and where we need to go. So if we do close a building, or if we, whatever, that feasibility study is, I know it impacts the budget, but it's important. It needs to stay in this budget.
All right, so you'll see overall this cost center is up $388,209 at a 12.44% increase. The next one is debt service, and this is where we put the expenditure, but you will see it as a revenue line in our ED 279, the cost of this. And that's coming to you from Kathy, but you can see this is just set. This is a set expenditure for the Sabatis Primary School addition.
This is our last year?
I'm not sure. I don't think so either. Because you'll see that it has come down by $18,000. That was a positive. We had a decrease.
Katie?
Yes.
Can we send Destiny home?
Yes, Destiny, you can, yes. Unless you want to stay.
Unless you want to.
Yes, I'm sure you do. I mean, you've been a good sport. Yeah. And then Kathy's going to come around and give you your cost center 11, other expenditures, school nutrition program. So we have some slides about the nutrition program.
So cost center 10 and 11 were together because they're only one page apiece. So just go ahead and put them in the appropriate spot in your binder. And then there is one single page handout, I believe, that goes with cost center 11. So that can go in the same spot.
Oh, so we're challenging you right now.
It was very challenging. I was reading it.
Very
11
good.
11 doesn't say it's 11, though.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yes,
It doesn't where?
Maybe your neighbor can help you, Bob. It looks like
I got just this one sheet.
You put,
like you're
doing school.
Which
is other.
Oh.
You probably put them
She handed me two things I separated.
So I do
Food
have a ton of
services on
questions,
top.
just because it's my first time with the school, not like I did Savannah's budget, but maybe
Sure.
if I write them down, because
Oh,
I can be
absolutely.
here for a while.
Yeah,
I
just,
don't want that.
just write everything down, then send it to us, Laura, too. Because next week, remember, next week we have only budget discussion. So that'll be a good opportunity for all the things that you want to ask. Make a list, and then we'll be ready, okay? This is kind of an overview. We knew that. We knew this is really, you get kind of big picture, and then next week we'll dive deeper, okay?
I think in the future, it would be helpful to have it like sooner, like all together for review, but maybe.
Well, you have a new business manager, new superintendent, so no one to blame. I mean, it's new, and if you want it done well, it took more time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, lots to take in, definitely.
It's good. I've been through a lot of budgets, and I'm very impressed. It's the most.
Thank you. Okay, so what's confusing about Cost Center 11 is the school nutrition program is here. However, the expenditure of the school nutrition program is not in the general fund. Okay? It lives in its own world, exactly. It's its own world. Its revenue comes in with reimbursement to our meals. So it lives alone, but we have to put an expenditure here because we need local contribution to balance the school nutrition program. So you won't see those expenditures anywhere in the general fund. And they have a different code. You'll even notice they have a different code when you see the summary. So as you know, Kathy's been serving as a nutrition director, and we'll talk about that shift that she shared in her assistant superintendent report last week. Last regular meeting, which seems so far away. But here is this food nutrition staff breakdown in staffing. So we have food managers at Carrie Ricker and Oak Hill Middle School, and they also support, I believe, the other schools, those food managers, yes. And then we have our assistant food managers, food service workers, and then you have the total of our folks. There is a reduction in that expenditure lines of one food service workers. Okay, and I talked about that, I believe, when we shared the reconfiguration. Then we just wanted to give you a snapshot of the meals that we serve by month, so you can see how many breakfasts we serve and how many lunches, and then the reimbursement for those. So we get $2.60 approximately for a breakfast and $4.56 approximately for our lunches. So it's all calculated. I mean, there's a system that we have to keep all these records that go into the state, and every quarter, I think it's every quarter, every month. Right. She would know all that. And you can come up, Kathy, too. You can.
Oh, John wanted the seat, I think.
You want to say? Okay.
He said it was his night.
All right, perfect. So, it's obviously a process. We put in, and then we get reimbursed for those meals, and that's the revenue to offset the costs. And then you can see our food nutrition breakdown of what it costs for our food. So when we're ordering food to make our meals, and how much for the non-food. So we used to kind of group it together, and then we were told you need to do food in one way and non-food in another way. So I see things come across, the milk orders are in, the paper products are in, okay? And then we have revenue, and this is important, is the total budgets. So you can see the total budget that we're proposing is going to be for the nutrition program is $976,142. Because this is really important, because Sabatis it's come down from last year to this year to next year to $856,000. Thank you, Sam. That people believe that we are reimbursed 100% for all our costs. We are not. So I wanted to make sure you saw that. I want you to also know in the local, and we know we've gone over this, and you know this, but just want to remind folks out there, that the local, you were collecting $142,799 back in FY19 and 20. And then FY21, it shifted to 125, and then it shifted to 100. Okay, and then this year we didn't collect it, and we're back to 150, which is, yeah.
That was based upon the auditor's recommendation. We no longer needed to fund that line.
Okay,
That's why it decreased down.
Okay.
Because it was becoming self-sufficient.
okay. Oh, we missed a zero on the 150. So, just seeing that. So, what we really working hard to do is to balance the budget, okay, so that we are not going to be running in the red as much as we can try to avoid that. So this year, I mean, we've been, Kathy and Sam, her team, watching and working with the Lisbon food director who's helping support us to really make sure, are we doing the best we can for cost savings in this. So we are going to anticipate $50,000 in daily sales. We do not have an a la carte program, and so we're going to be working really hard with the nutrition team to bring a la carte in so that there's more paid options for students, and that will be revenue that we can put towards the books.
Do we know if school lunches are going to be free again?
Yes, they will be.
They will be?
Yep.
Okay.
That's already been decided.
That's why that line wasn't inflated back to what you see in FY19 and 20. So what you're looking at in every year prior to the FY24 is actual revenue. Okay, so you can see that, prior to COVID, when lunches weren't free for everyone, our actual daily sales revenue were quite higher. And then that dropped off significantly. It didn't drop off in anticipated revenue, but it dropped off because school lunch became free. So what we're trying to do now this year is, Kathy and I have been working hard together to say, we've got some work to do to figure out how do we come up with additional revenue through daily sales so that the local doesn't have to burden $200,000 to support the school lunch program. So we know that's going to be a work in progress, and we're committed to finding ways to make that work so that it's not such a significant swing. And again, I apologize for the missing zero. That should be 150,000 there. And we've also worked really diligently to examine our state subsidy to date this year and in years past, looking for trends to see, is that anticipated or approximate 656,000 appropriate? We don't want to exaggerate that. We don't want to try to fluff anything. We want it to be as realistic as possible. So we know we have some work to do too, to work on that a la carte piece.
Can families opt in to pay?
I'm not sure.
So I'm not sure. So I guess two things too. We don't know what so in the previous slide we showed what the reimburse for breakfast and lunch. We won't know what that is for next year. The other piece is we applied to be a special provision too. And what that's really doing is it allows us to figure out a base year. If we can get over the 40% of free and reduced, either by school or as a district, it will allow us to be free breakfast and lunch for 3 or 4 years. So that'd be great. However, we got to get to that 40%. So we will have to be pulling our enrollment, and Vicki and I have a plan on April 3rd. We have to pull our enrollment and then determine every student if they would be free, reduced, or paid. So we'll figure that out. If we don't hit that 40%, we can reapply to have another base year, and that will be really important that we get those free and reduced lunch pieces. Because right now we're kind of going off of what is Mills doing or what is happening at legislator, but we have local control to determine whether we can continue to be free breakfast and lunch. But that does affect our revenue, so we got to kind of look at what's our pros and cons to that.
Did we look at adding anything into this for remote school days? Was that? And I guess we covered at least one remote day. So where did that money come from, and is that something we can possibly look at doing next year?
Yep, so it was such minimal cost for this current year, so we wrote a waiver for this year to get that reimbursed. So we're waiting to hear from the state if we can claim that day. But in terms of looking at our cost, I know that I can afford some days. I'm probably not 10 days, but we can start to figure out if we can do some remote. So we'll wait from the board to kind of determine that. But from what we had for signups this year and how I was able to reduce the cost to be so minimal, we could swing it.
So with this amount of money, we could do 5? For
Yes.
days? Okay.
Yeah, we made sure of that we, yeah, but that's a good question.
I can't do 10. That might be another piece there, but 5 I can do.
Just some other things to note too. I know you see the little asterisk for COVID. So in FY20, that 552 would have been substantially higher, but we, were remote by mid-March. And then coming back, I know we don't like to remember it. I don't like to remember it, but we were hybrid the next year. That's a significant number of meals that weren't served in that year as well. So just keep that in mind as you look at those numbers.
Okay, Kathy, do you want to go over the next slide?
So the next slide is exactly what I passed out the last budget meeting, but I thought it was really important for the community members that were part of this to understand what the workflow would look like and why we're adding that $18,000 for that contract service for the Lisbon nutrition manager. So just wanted to kind of showcase what does the work look like for John, what does the work look like for me, and then what are we asking Lisbon for. So I know we are doing a site visit next Wednesday, so she's going to visit all the different sites and see how we're doing breakfast and lunch. And then we're starting to kind of comb through some reports and some fine tune. And as Sam said, we're going to kind of look into some options for like a la carte and find other revenue streams. It might mean, though, I might come to the board and ask you for an increase in adult meal sales pricing.
So as we spoke about contractors, we're doing contract services with Lisbon School Department at an $18,000 stipend, which is a big savings to not add a nutrition director. So a nutrition director would be a lot more money. So we're hoping this is going to work out. We may be back next year saying it didn't go as well as we'd hope, but we have full confidence that director's support can help us get to a different place in our nutrition program. I already mentioned the local contribution, as Bob brought up with the auditors. So this year, in speaking with our auditor, we explained to him what happened around not collecting the local contribution. So when he was looking at the allocation of the undesignated fund balance at the end of FY22, he designated $400,000 for the local contribution to taxes, and he also identified $100,000 for the food service program. So that is in the audit, and we asked him about how do we cover that. So that was done through our auditors. And then we had a reduction in revenue due to adjustment state reimbursement, so you know that. And then we reduced one food service worker position at Oak Hill Middle School.
Okay, so you said you had the auditors tell us how to handle our fund balance?
How to cover the 100,000 deficit in needing to meet the expenditure that was noted, the $100,000 expenditure that we did not have revenue to cover.
So that section of that item was number 11 for school lunch.
Mhm.
Right, so on the warrant it would be Article 11.
Yeah, yes.
Was it in the red?
It would have been,
We
yes.
couldn't have it in the red.
Correct. He said he had done it, but I think it wasn't anything new to him from what I sensed from Casey. Because we asked, they did not approve collecting the 100,000, so how do we manage the expenditure? And he said, we can move the 100,000 from your FY22 end of year fund balance. So he can talk more about it, Bob, when he comes. He's going to be with us at the Finance Committee. You can ask that. Okay?
Yes.
I have a question. Oak Hill Middle School, so you only have 2 people working on for food service?
No, we have a manager and then 2 food service workers.
But it says reduction of 1 for the
We have,
year?
so that's,
So
we
I
have
wanna go back
3
to-
food service
So,
workers
yeah.
and a manager. We're reducing it to match the high school because they have similar
Yeah.
numbers of students.
Okay, I thought it was you had 2 and now you're going down to 1.
No, this is what we're what it would look like for next year.
All right.
So I was going to review, but with time, you can review the slides. What I did is I added all the notes. Yeah, so you can, it summarizes all the things that we went over last week, if we had time. But, so I want to go to the grand total.
Is that other?
No, all.
This is all your cost centers, so you see them all together.
The number.
The drum roll
Currently.
Mhm.
We change all the time.
So right now, this is the cost center summary. Last week you got the summary for 1 through 7, and now we've added 8, 9, 10, and 11. So you can see that the budget is up $968,310.81, or 4.55% increase. So this is the expenditure side. Next week, we're going to go over adult education expenditures, the revenue and EPS, and we will be at Cary Records. You want to go to the next slide for the meetings? Yeah.
Where in
Okay.
the gym? In the gym or in the?
The music room.
Music room. Music room is easier to hear? Okay.
Yeah.
With worse chairs.
They are awful. Sorry.
Her watcher. So that's where we're expected to be.
Throw some chairs in the
It's not in the budget chair. So, as you make your way through and you have questions, we will get prepared to answer those questions. And then, Robbie?
Yeah, we're gonna get an impact sheet of what each
Yes.
individual town.
That's next week.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam and Sharon are meeting to go over everything. So that will be the big, obviously, night. And then we'll have to discuss where you want to be and any changes, things like that. And then, as you know, April 5th, we had talked about, if necessary, it probably will be necessary, but so keep it on your books. And then April 12th, you're due to approve it at your April 12th meeting. And then it's due to public budget meeting on May 17th. Okay? So next week we'll dive even more. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move down to 6.2 to approve the second reading of the following policies. IKF, graduation requirements.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
So I guess I want to register. We did a first reading and approved changes, but yet the policy that's provided to us tonight still has all this red in it, and it should be the clean what was approved at the first reading. Because now you're asking us to approve this. This has a lot of red with lined out. We should have got it in all 3 of these.
We
It
need a
should have
clean
came
copy.
to us, a clean copy, so that we can actually look at it and see exactly what it's going to be clean. If, my suggestion would be is that wait till the next meeting on these, and we draw the motion in the second,
Yep.
and then get clean copies to us. Because that's what we're going to approve, is what's presented. I don't want to present something that goes, like this. So that's my comment. Oh, there's my divider. I don't have an 11.
I don't know if this is the time to talk about the total credit, because I know we kind of talked about that before, if we were going to reduce those or leave them at 24. I personally think they should be maybe 21. I think is a good number instead of 24. So I don't know if I make a motion, like I don't really know how this works. So I don't know if I make a motion to change it to a 21 unit or if.
My only concern is, I think that's a high school discussion, needs to be involved in the discussion. So if it's something the board makes a decision, we'd like you to look into what the impact of that is. I hate for the board to just make a decision and not know the impact of that decision. And Mel is here, and she's, because the policies are here. Go ahead, Mel.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, of course, it's an agenda item.
The only thing I'll say to that is we were 21 and a half credits for the first 10, 12 years that I was here. We went to 22, we went to 22 and a half, and we went to 24. And the board was part of all that. So we have increased through the years, but a lot of that was driven here. So I just want to, if you decide to send us back and tell us to take a look at it, we can do that. But we started there.
So I think what we received the last time was that, I don't know, I still have people online, but I think the thing that we received last time is the state requirement was 11, and I think we kind of said 11 was low, but is 24 the number that helps our students get there as well? Do you know what I mean? So I am proposing that they take a look at it again, but.
Yeah, the last meeting, and it was approved for first reading, and I think it was approved for first reading. We can't go back. If we went back to every policy that somebody didn't like because they weren't here or didn't like the board approved it for first reading, I think we should carry on. And then if it wants to be sent back to the policy committee for the whole board to look at again, that's something that we could do that way. But we approved it for first reading. If you don't like it, don't vote for it during second reading.
So we have a motion to table.
Yeah, no, we don't have a
No,
motion
we
to
don't.
table
No,
yet.
you have
a motion. That wasn't a motion.
No,
No.
it was just a
Sorry.
recommendation if we wanted to.
And I'd like to is this the time to make the motion to table?
Either that, or were you a motioner or a seconder?
I was motion. I make a motion to recall.
And I'll second.
So if you just rescind your motion.
Yes.
And if the second rescinds theirs, then
Rescind,
it's
yep.
off, and then if there's no motion to take it up, then
Yep.
we would move to the next, and then the next to get rid of all three. That would be the proper way.
And just a reminder, when you see things on the agenda that you think need to be cleared up before a meeting, please let us know. I mean, that would have been a quick fix. So don't hesitate so it doesn't delay it for another meeting. So I would just appreciate feedback before the meeting so that we can be prepared for that. Thank you.
So now we need a motion to take the other two off.
No,
Or was that
you
the whole
just, you
thing?
just, you can just ask if nobody makes a motion and there's not a second, then you just pass over it.
All right, and we will move on to new business. 7.1, to approve the following administrators for one-year contracts from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
I do want to make a comment, if I may. So as you know, we have an executive session coming up around the administrator's contract. So Amy St. Pierre is listed as Oak Hill Middle School, Sabatis Primary School, because that's how it's currently in the contract, and I'll be discussing more in executive session. So I just want the public, if they're questioning, is Amy St. Pierre also going to be Sabatis Primary School? As you know, in our budget presentation last week, we discussed moving that position from assistant principal position that is covering Oak Hill Middle School and Sabatis to make that position a principal's position, and then the Oak Hill High School principal position that was split to be only middle school. Right, middle school, thank you. And so that, just so we have it listed here as it stands right now, and then we're going to have more conversation. I also mentioned the budget. The shift in assignment in that way is not impacting the budget. I just want people, the public has been asking, and I want to make sure.
Amy St. Pierre, Principal, Oak Hill Middle School / Sabatis Primary. Dustin Miles, Principal, Carrie Ricker, Libby Tozier School. Michaela Stevens, Assistant Principal, Carrie Ricker, Libby Tozier Schools, and Brian Daniels, Athletic Director.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. 7.2, to approve the following administrator for a 2-year contract from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2024. Norma Jean Audette, Technology Coordinator.
So I'll explain this. So, you know, when you're looking into one thing, it leads to another thing that leads to another thing. So, as you know, you may remember, some are new, so you wouldn't know, but Norma Jean retired at one point, and the board accepted the retirement. She then worked with the superintendent and was not retiring, and she was issued a contract for this year and next year. The board did not approve that at that time, so I'm asking that they approve it now to follow, so that we have record that to accept that contract.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. 7.3, to approve the following position for a 1-year contract from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, funded through the SRARP grant. Jenny Hudner, Assistant Principal at Oak Hill Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. 7.4, to approve the following position for 1-year contract from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, funded through SRARP grant. Michael Jack, Dean of Students.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. So 7.5, we're actually just going to discuss and not approve the school calendar, as the union has asked us to wait, right?
Yeah.
That was the-
Yeah, so what happened is I did not send the calendar to them prior to it going on the agenda. And so from what happened before is, and they talked to me today, that they often find, like, okay, are the dates the same? So they did ask could they do one review on it, and I said, well, I would bring it to you all. I felt it was to be a discussion anyway regarding the calendar and what we want to do, so you may give us feedback and we have to adjust the calendar. So it falls in line with have a discussion, and if there were changes and so forth, we can move it forward.
Any discussion on the school calendar?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Laura?
I didn't know a couple of things. With the meetings every Wednesday, because I work the next day, a lot of people do, but if they were ever considered why it was Wednesday, or if they could be Friday or something. There's a different date.
School board meeting?
Yeah.
Been that way.
Oh, school board. Yeah.
Why they were set there, I don't know. It's just, they were set there before I ever even moved into town. Probably were Wednesdays in the 1980s.
Would anyone else propose that they get changed, or if people like Wednesday?
I've been booking Wednesdays for the last 25 years, so yeah, that's just, school board Wednesdays, it's just an auto. I have something scheduled for myself every other night of the week, with the exception of Friday night, which I do. I go and play cribbage at the Legion, but every other night of the week I have other types of meetings. So, Wednesdays, and that's on purpose, right? Because I had Wednesdays for school board, so when I get into a golf league, I do that on a Thursday. You know, RCA, I'm director meetings on Mondays, and session meeting with the church on.
I got farmers market, all kinds of things, right? Like people have all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. But I mean, is there a reason that we would want to keep them Wednesdays?
I would.
I would too, because at this point.
It's where it's been, it's where we've had it. Public is used to it too. It's just been something that's been very consistent.
I thought you were talking about early release on a
I know,
different
that's
day. I was like, tell me more.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
So yeah, early release, yeah. But is there any, like, maybe more public would come if it's on a different day, or no?
Definitely not a Friday.
No.
Friday.
No.
Definitely not a Friday.
And honestly, most meetings, we're out of here by 8:30. So I don't think it's in position for too many people.
And then is there any consideration to maybe eliminating late start or removing it and adding maybe some half days instead throughout the month? Like for on a Friday, if you have a half day, then teachers would have that half day. You know, if you do a half a day of instruction and then the teachers and staff would have half a day to do that other stuff instead of just 2 hours every Wednesday. I don't know, we don't have a lot of half-days compared to some other districts, and I don't know if that's just a space that we could maybe explore, but.
So, it's my understanding from the curriculum subcommittee that workshop days are contractual.
Correct.
So so a half-day workshop would be contractual. I'm looking at you, Kathy.
No, I would say there's not much difference between our early release and a half a day.
Right.
So I don't think we're really like going to make any difference on that piece.
We gotta have time to get lunch in or it doesn't count as a day.
It has to be in a certain time and
Exactly.
certain, yeah. And then also looking at bus runs and things like that.
And LRTC is a real problem.
And Lewiston does half-day, I think, once a month?
Early release.
Yeah, early release, half-day workshop, once a month.
But they do staff meetings till 5 o'clock. We do not.
Because that's contractual.
Correct.
Thank you. I have to think.
So I've just on the calendar, a couple of things. The little boxes at the bottom, they don't contain all the verbiage that belongs in them. So I don't know what's hidden. You know, probably not a lot, but it would be nice to have it there. So we could see what it is. And I would like to speak in favor of reducing the early release to just an hour instead of 2. And I would do that and still have it every week because I think that allows for a more constant schedule for parents for setting up daycare and everything else than to do it just twice a month or once a month. Then you have, you know, although I would like to get the kids in school as often as possible. But when we looked at the survey that was handed out, you know, a great survey, 700 responses, but we had 417 that made comments. And a great majority of those would like to have only an hour. So they picked it after, because they had 2 choices, early release or late start.
Late start.
They didn't like the late starts, they checked early release, but then they made comments, you know, 6 that, you know, that they work better with other schedules, they'd like, you know, they want to prefer to reduce it to 1 hours. There's a lot of them that go down that for some reason wanted to modify the current schedule. So staff, even there was 13 that wanted to modify the current schedule, even though they were in favor of the early release, you know. And 4 preferred a reduction in the number of days. 2 preferred going to 5 full days, just get rid of it. 3 preferred a reduction in the number of days of early release, and 2 wanted to move it to Friday so that if they had an appointment Friday afternoon, they'd be gone for the rest of the day, the weekend. But we had that, parents, the same thing. You know, they wanted the early release, but the 8 preferred 1 hour, 13 preferred full 5 days. All right. 4 preferred a reduction in the number of days of early release, and 6 preferred moving it to Friday. So, you know, there was, while they picked overwhelmingly keeping with the early release versus a late start, a great many of them who were of this 417 and made a comment signaled that they thought that they wanted their students in school more. And that was really obvious with people who checked the late start, because one of the reasons they liked it is they give the kids an hour more in school. And we even had a number of staff people who liked the early release, and almost all, 16 of the 19 comments, I think, all had to do with more time with their students, that they can't get all of their instructional requirements in. It's hard to get it all in by losing that extra hour each week. So, I think we might want to consider a little stronger, just an hour early release instead of 2. But like I say, I like the kids in school more often than they are. I'd go for, year-round school, but follow the European model.
So I guess my question would be, Kathy, when we had this discussion originally, an hour didn't give you enough time for professional development, am I right?
So there were 2 main reasons. The first one, obviously, the 2 hours allowed us a long time to really actually dive deeper into the subject areas with the staff. And I would say the work that I've seen during PLGs has proven that. The other piece, and I was just kind of sharing to Sam, is as a board, you need to understand that if you reduce it as an hour, our support staff would not be attending. So they do not have in the budget that extra hour. They actually leave, like at Sebastian Primary, they leave at 2. Our staff stay till 3. Our professional staff stay till 3. It's not in the budget for that extra.
And they're hourly employees.
They're hourly employees, and so they're not budgeted for that extra hour.
But they're kid-facing.
They're kid-facing, but they're also kid-facing our most challenging and our kids that need interventions. And I will say this is the first time that we've been able to provide instruction and professional development to them. And that's where I think that's made a big impact this year for from our high learners, like our GT ed techs, to our Title I ed techs, to our special ed techs. So some of the things in the programming that we've been able to do is because we've been providing that PLG time for our ed techs. If you reduce it an hour, they will not receive that professional development.
Why wouldn't they? It's not changing their hour. They're here an hour anyway, and then they're not here for 2 hours, right? So
Our budget has always had it for so many hours of the week. We never paid them when they were late start. We wouldn't pay that extra hour on the other end of the day. It's not in the budget.
I'm baffled. If we release 2 hours now and they're here for an hour, right? So they get off an hour before.
They got an hour off before the
So if we
teachers.
just move the ones that get here, the school would go until they're done, so at their regular schedules. They wouldn't have that hour after school, is what you're saying at work.
Correct.
Right, so. Okay. Also, a lot of comments about LRTC. So students go to LRTC, come back on Wednesday, go to lunch, they don't even see one of their classes every other week. They lose a class. And some of the students made jokes about it, some parents about LRTs being forgotten. It's a fun day, I go to LRTC, I come back and I go to lunch and I go home. So, we're doing a disservice for them.
Diane?
Years ago, when we first started, we didn't do this for a long time, but way back when this initially started, I remember they had given us like our grade level release time, and we would have like a sub in our classroom, like at a grade level, like first grade, and all the teachers would meet that afternoon, and we would do that. We did that for many years, and then that became difficult to get subs. Yeah. So this is how this ended up starting, but with everything that's going on with COVID and all of the learning that kids have missed in the classroom, I firmly believe they need to be more in the classroom than they have been, and I would agree with just 1 or 2 days a month and not all month. I mean, I could see maybe the first Wednesday of the month and the last Wednesday of the month, and like, people are saying, oh, parents are not gonna remember that. Lewiston has a calendar. If you looked at that calendar, you would be like, I can't believe parents can remember this, but different schools have different days off, and it's all scattered all through the calendar. So I don't think that's an excuse. I think 2 days a month would be more than enough. If you want to do 2 hours, I think losing up to 8 hours, and preferably not on a week that's going to be a short week. The kids, I mean, having been in the classroom, when you have to leave early, like, because I didn't do it here, but I did it in Lewiston, it's like your day is so chopped and you're in a hurry to get everything that you need to do. There's not enough time. And I think they need to be in the classroom.
I would support the twice a month, too.
My district that I work in, we have late start, which is an hour, just an hour, every Wednesday. And I have parents who forget and drop their kids off, and it's every Wednesday. So no matter what you do, someone's going to
They're
forget.
looking for daycare.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
So what you're proposing would be every other week or the first and the last, and it's still 4 hours a month. So going every week, 1 hour would work, but I think your way would allow the support staff to be able to have the professional time also. So I agree that if we can change it to twice a month and allowing our support staff to get the professional training that they deserve and need to, I could agree with that.
So I'm going to round us back to the calendar. We've been talking about half-day Wednesdays, but it's got
Other stuff.
nothing to really do with the calendar.
You might want to go down the block right down there, it
So-
says early release.
So, right.
That's the calendar?
But we're discussing change, like you want to change the early release, and that's not what this motion was about.
Well,
Early
now,
release isn't on here.
we're discussing.
Right.
So one thing we could, from the discussion?
Yes.
So we can come back on the next meeting and identify, if the board agrees, and that's what you would have to say, is if everybody agreed to what is being proposed, we would bring a sample with the early release Wednesdays identified.
Can I make a recommendation to send it back to CAI?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep,
And then we can present something to the board?
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good idea.
Well, we got committees.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we will move down to
No.
8 with committee reports, but there are no committees this evening to report. So I will go down to number 9, board comments. Robbie?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it's nice to see Oak Hill students succeeding.
Yes.
And the community, the more that they find out what we're doing in our public schools, I think the better off we are. And I know every time come budget season, I always get the comments around town that, kids can't do math, they can't make change. And it's the common denominator of painting everybody with one brush. And that's the part that I do not tolerate. We graduate students from Oak Hill High School that go on to prestigious 4-year colleges. They go on to trade schools, they go to the military. Our public schools work, but the secret to working is participation. Successful students participate in public school activities. That's the part we have to try and get across to our students. And if you want to be successful in high school, you want to be successful in public school, participate. That's the magic pill. Whether it's sports, whether it's co-curricular, whether it's clubs, activities, participate. And we saw the fruit of that tonight.
I just wanted to say kudos to all of the team members that, all of the positive things happening in our building and the slides and the support. Every single one of you that presented tonight were almost in awe a little bit in your speech of how many parents and community came out and supported your kids in those buildings. And I just think it's really cool to see. And, congratulations to you guys for all of that.
Anyone else?
It would be great to see all of those students come to the school budget meeting with the towns with their medals on. Maybe that would make an impression on our towns.
I think
we could do it.
Yeah.
Like what schools they went to.
Anyone else? No?
Oh, and welcome, Brandon.
So 10.1, we will enter into executive session pursuant of 1 MRSA 40560, negotiations for professionals, collective bargaining agreement, professional assistants, association collective bargaining agreement, and the administrators assistant association collective bargaining agreement. All those in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, sorry.
So I would like the record to show that we're not entering the negotiations for the agreements, we're entering the negotiations discussion with the associations, which should actually be named and not just an agreement. So it should say with the Professional Teachers Association, RSU4, with this association, and so I think it's supposed to be precise on who the parties are that the negotiations are going to be about.
Okay.
Well, do you want to change the wording?
I think as long as all of us understand that the motion is really to enter into negotiations that are ongoing for these particular associations that would be properly named if it was in there. I think is the key tonight. And in the future, make sure that we have that, and that will keep us in compliance with statute.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those? 8:42.